I want to welcome Gordon Holmes. He is going to be a wealth of information for you tonight. He's going to cover, I know, a lot of topics, including SSI and special needs trusts and ABLE accounts. And I can just say from personal experience, this is one of the most organized, clearly laid out people that you want to talk to find out about this information. He's helped my family tremendously and is one of the kindest people I know as you walk through these difficult decisions and making sure that you have things set up for your loved ones. So with that, Gordon, I'm going to turn it over to you. If anyone does have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And then I will ask Gordon as the time is appropriate. So we want to make sure you get your questions answered tonight. And so with that, Gordon, we'll turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Amy, for the introduction. And thanks everyone for making time this evening for this workshop. I know it's always a challenge and hoops to jump through to participate. So a big thank you from me. Again, I'm Gordon Holmes, last name spelled H-O-M-E-S. Professionally, I'm a certified financial planner. I've been in practice for over 40 years. The last 25 years have been almost exclusively devoted to special needs. I have 3 children, the youngest of which has special needs on the autism spectrum and other challenges, including Crohn's disease. And so I decided to move my practice in the direction of special needs 25 years ago when my personal journey with special needs began. And over the years, we've worked literally with thousands of families throughout Indiana and Kentucky. I have offices both in Indianapolis and Louisville. And through both offices, again, we serve families throughout the entire state of Indiana and a good part of Kentucky. We do have a fair amount of material to cover this evening, and so I do want to get rolling. I encourage you to ask questions, and we will not hold them to the end. If you'd be so kind to put questions into chat, then Amy has generously volunteered to monitor the chat because it may be useful to actually answer your question while we're on that subject matter in the PowerPoint. So again, we won't hold to the end. And this is going to be quite a thorough review of both the legal, financial, and government benefits issues that are involved with a special needs journey. And so if you know of any other special needs families that probably should be here, but they're not, please forward links to them right away so that they can join in, albeit late, because this is really going to be a unique, expansive review, as Amy mentioned a few minutes ago. By way of full disclosure, I do assist families with the legal, financial, and government benefit issues. We have an informal network of attorneys throughout Indiana and Kentucky, about a dozen in total, and they assist with both estate planning, creating and setting up special needs trusts, appealing government benefit decisions, including Social Security, SSI appeals, Medicaid administrative hearings, guardianship issues, IEP situations, etc. So we have the legal front covered. Financially, I manage tens of millions of dollars of trust funds as a part of my practice. So we just don't put plans in place, but we execute the plans, and we manage, again, many millions of dollars for individuals with disabilities to enhance and uphold their quality of life. And then I have a great deal of knowledge as it relates to government benefits. So whether it's SSI, SSDI, benefits for a child, adult child benefits when they're older, Medicaid waivers, Medicare, etc. A lot of expertise in the government benefit area, and always delighted to share. So let's get rolling this evening. And again, both a personal thanks to all of you for making time available to join me in my journey this evening. Disclosure: we're not all things to all people. We do really try hard to assist families, and we do literally work with thousands of families throughout Indiana. In fact, we do more special needs planning than any firm in the state. as my wife and I get a bit older, and with that, our son with special needs, the question looms heavy of what will happen when something happens to us, this type of thing. And boy, I'll tell you, the COVID experience in recent years really drove this point home, because it isn't always way down the road. It may come by surprise a bit quicker than we think. To assist families in determining where you may be in the special needs planning process, we have 3 quick questions to kind of dip your toe in the pool to see where you're at. The first question acknowledges that our children with special needs need some extra help. And so it just simply is asking if you've arranged to leave more than $2,000 through your will or your estate plan for them for their help. Number 2, have you identified a future caregiver or someone that is going to be their future guardian or caregiver? Very important. And number 3, for many of us, if something were to happen to us along the way, life insurance and retirement funds are where the bulk of the resources exist that we leave for those that we love. And this just simply is inquiring as to whether it's possible that your child with special needs has been left out. Sometimes children with special needs are the last to come along. It certainly was in our case. And sometimes people are a little slow to update things, et cetera, and the child with special needs can be left out. So these 3 questions actually cover a big part of the special needs planning process. And so getting the questions right is really important. What's interesting is without that big red caboose called special needs, answering yes to all of these questions would be a wonderful thing. Meaning money for our child with special needs and someone to take care of them, and they've been included on all the beneficiaries. And then the big red caboose called special needs gets attached to your train, and suddenly all the answers change. Basically, being a part of the special needs experience, answering yes to any of those questions generally indicates the need for additional planning. So we in the special needs community are subject to a whole different set of rules. And so as a result of that, we really cannot afford to plan like our neighbors are, or perhaps friends are that are not on the special needs track. And we'll take these questions one at a time, and we'll talk about why it matters a lot in special needs planning. We're going to look at things both from a legal and a financial perspective, and we will delve into government benefits. So you're going to get a good dose of information, as you can see here, on Social Security, Medicaid waivers. The special needs experience really permeates so many of the decisions that we make. It can affect cash flow. It can affect where we live, where our children go to school. It can even affect when we decide to retire, as you'll find as we get into the government benefits a bit. But we'll start with last will and testament. We'll move to trusts, and then guardianship, conservatorship, and what options exist in Indiana. And then government benefit-wise, we'll delve into some of these. And these government benefits are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars during the lifetime of our child or children with special needs. We cannot overlook them. Few of us have pockets deep enough to write off government benefits and make a decision to self-fund everything, because truly hundreds of thousands of dollars tied up in these benefits. And frankly, with the inflation that we've experienced in recent years, they've only gotten richer. With the cost of healthcare going up, Medicaid is more important than ever. And certainly Social Security benefits are driven northward. People are utterly shocked to find that SSI benefits are closing in on $1,000 a month. You heard me right. SSI, or Supplemental Security Income, for our children with special needs, getting very close to $1,000 a month. And that's tax-free, both federal and state. So we're really talking substantial resources here available to us as a part of our special needs journey. So looking at things from a legal perspective, starting with the last will and testament. And there are 3 things that primarily motivate us to get a will, a last will and testament. And I always like a little bit of audience participation. So we've got 22 of you out there, so I really appreciate that. And if any of you would kind of help me out here and either unmute yourself or throw something in chat with the 3 things that motivate most of us to get a will, and I'll give you some hints. You want to have an opportunity to have a say as to who gets some things. So anybody want to venture to guess what your will speaks to? Who gets your what? Anybody want to guess? Okay. Oh, we got somebody. Thanks. Really appreciate it. Money, absolutely. So who gets your money? Definitely. In addition to that, who gets your stuff? Stuff can be a house, car, furniture, furnishings, clothing, personal items, collections, etc. So your will gives you an opportunity to have a say as to who gets all that, who's on the ends, who's on the outs, how you're slicing the pie, etc. So absolutely. And that's very important. Second of all, your will gives you the opportunity to decide who gets what's probably most precious to you, and that is your children that are either minors or adult children with special needs for whom you have gone to court to obtain guardianship for. So who's going to be in charge of the children if you're not here? And number three, your will gives you the opportunity to select who's going to be in charge. So who gets your money and your stuff, who gets your children, and who's in charge. So important. And wills are really inexpensive. Not more typically than a few $100s to get a simple will, and it does so much. It provides so much in the way of your wishes and your intent as to how you want things to happen. Now, a will is a part of an estate plan. There are other pieces to it, and you might think of a will as a bit of a snapshot, meaning it's the picture of how you see things at the time of your passing. As we move forward to the next slide, we talk about trusts. And trusts are more like a moving picture, meaning as opposed to a snapshot, a still, or this is at the time of your passing. With a trust, it's going to last probably for years, potentially for decades. And so because it has such a longer timeline to play out, it's more like a movie versus a photograph. So with a will, you get to, in some cases, eliminate probate. You get to determine who's in charge. That's a trustee. You get to determine who benefits from the trust. And you get to determine what's in the trust can be spent on. So you have a lot of control with a trust. And that control does not stop because you die. In fact, you can be gone for decades and literally you're still calling the shots about the trust that you set up before you passed. So trusts have become very popular in recent years because they've become relatively inexpensive to set up and operate. And so we say it's not so complicated and family members can serve as trustees, etc. So we do a lot of work with trusts, and I'm very much an advocate for utilizing trusts to help see that your vision of how you want things to play out is going to happen. So let's come back and start looking at those three questions that we posed earlier. And the first question is the $2,000 question. So does anybody want to venture to guess why $2,000 might be listed in this question about resources? There's something very special about $2,000 in most states, certainly in Indiana, and that is that $2,000 is a resource limit. So in Indiana, if an individual with special needs has more than $2,000, they lose eligibility for most of the government benefits that we work so hard to get in place for them. This does include Medicaid and, by extension, access to Medicaid waiver services. It also includes SSI. So you wrap up Social Security and SSI and Medicaid waiver services, and you're looking at a lot. So $2,000 is the limit. And so as a general rule, we need to keep bank accounts, checking accounts, savings account, government bonds, UTMA or Uniform Transfer to Minor Act accounts, custodial accounts, mutual funds, basically anything that has monetary value that can be easily converted to cash. We need to keep their tally under the $2,000. So, so this is the reason for listing it right up front, because it's very easy with perhaps well-meaning grandparents, friends, godparents, aunts, uncles, etc., that want to gift and want to be helpful and so forth, to gift money to them, leave money to them, etc. But reality is if their name's on the account and it's under their Social Security number, then the government's very interested. Okay. very interested in those resources. Okay, I'm hearing that chat is not working. So
yes, I am working on that, Gordon. But we do have a question, so
all
I'm
right.
gonna allow them to ask their question if that's okay.
Oh, yes, please, please.
Okay. I know someone it says Zoom, it just says Zoom user has a question. Do you want to ask Gordon?
I'm here. Are they able to unmute?
I've asked them to. They should be able to.
Okay.
If not, if people want to go ahead and use the Q&A, I can see the Q&A, so I'll be happy to relay those questions to Gordon if you have any others.
Absolutely.
All right.
Love questions. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, so we got to keep them under 2,000. And frankly, it does not matter whether they have a job or not, whether they're 5, 10, 15, or 50. There is no age where we escape the $2,000 resource limit. And what does it apply to? SSI. Now, once they become eligible for Social Security disability, the 2,000 no longer applies because that's tied to SSI, not SSDI or survivor benefits. However, the 2,000 always applies to Medicaid as a single individual and by extension, Medicaid waiver services. So even when an individual transitions from SSI to SSDI because they've had part-time employment, this type of thing, or survivor benefits because of a parent's passing, then they quite often get swept off of SSI, and the $2,000 is no longer an issue. But the issue persists with Medicaid. So, and most want to keep Medicaid because of the waiver services and because of healthcare. So, for that reason, in most cases, there's no getting rid of the $2,000 resource limit. It needs to be observed and respected on an ongoing basis. 3,000 if married, but for single individuals, which of course encompass most of our special needs population, the limit is $2,000. Now, I'm frequently asked, is that $2,000 a month? And the answer is it's $2,000 every month, meaning the first of every calendar month, a person's financial resources, countable resources, need to come in under the $2,000. So it's something to monitor certainly throughout the month, but by the end of the month, resources need to be spent or transferred to alternative places to hold them, such as ABLE accounts that we'll talk about here in a few minutes. So we have more options. We have more planning tools in the special needs community than ever before. And so this is not a bummer. This is really an exciting time, a very exciting time for multiple reasons in the special needs community. And I'll just throw out a few of them because I just can't be quiet about this. First of all, life expectancy for our individuals with special needs has skyrocketed. I mean, just this year, I went to a chromosomal deletion conference, and there were individuals with the condition, with the special needs in their 40s. And parents were told when they took them home at birth from the hospital not to get attached to them. And here they are making it to 40 something. Incredible. I was so encouraged. Then we have individuals with Down syndrome living into their 70s. And during my lifetime, I mean, someone in the crib next to me when I was born with Down syndrome would not have made it to 30. And now we're talking over 70. So life expectancy is truly a reason to scream and shout and be so very excited. It has a lot to do with investing in our special needs population. IEPs and 504s and nonprofits like the Resource Center for Autism, Special Olympics, and many others. And so quality of life has just gotten shot through the roof, and healthcare with Medicaid benefits, Medicaid, Medicare in some cases, et cetera. And so a combination of healthcare, quality of life, living a purposeful, meaningful life, and life expectancies are just exploding. In addition to that, really excited because a record number, especially of our young people with special needs, are in the workplace. And whether it's 2 hours a week or 20 hours a week, we're seeing record levels of employment among our special needs population. So exciting. The great news is that most of the government benefits that we work so hard to put in place for our children and wait for months, if not years, will coexist with employment. You heard me right. They do not have to forfeit the opportunity to have employment, to have a job, or to earn income. They can maintain most all of their benefits and still enjoy employment as well. And I was, in fact, I was on a webinar just last Friday, and this issue came up where a mother whose child is going to age out of their secondary education experience, like in the next year or so, and she was wondering how they're going to fill the time. And there are just more options than ever before, whether it's part-time employment, volunteering, working with voc rehab, waiver services. School corporations are stepping up with transition programs, as well as employment opportunities within the schools themselves, be it food service, janitorial, maintenance, etc. So between employment, where appropriate, volunteering, supported employment, working with voc rehab, or in some cases taking a class or two at a technical school, or Erskine Green and Muncie, co-sponsored with the IRCA, Ivy Tech, etc. More options than ever before about places and things and just things to do and to occupy their time and to contribute and to be valued. So I just get so excited about this. Okay, all right. And I'm seeing some familiar names show up in chat. I gotta love it. Thank you all. I'm so encouraged. Appreciate it very much. Okay, so let's move on. $2,000 is the resource limit. It applies to SSI, Medicaid, and Medicaid waiver services. Okay. Let's talk about some of the government benefits, meaning, okay, so we've established the fact that they can't accumulate or have substantial resources. So what is it? What are these government benefits that we're trying to structure our situations around? Just what are they? What do they provide? How are they valuable, et cetera? So let's start with SSI. SSI stands for Supplemental Security Income. It's actually not Social Security, but it is administered by the Social Security Administration. And SSI is available from birth to grave. You heard me right, birth to grave. So for our young people with special needs, there is a financial component prior to their turning 18 that causes most families to not pursue SSI again until their child with special needs reaches age 18. But if a family has financial challenges, it may be possible for the child with special needs to receive SSI early on prior to the age of 18. Now, once they reach age 18, what makes SSI super popular? Well, there's several things. Number one, once they turn 18, a parent's assets or income are no longer a factor in their eligibility. So you heard me right. They turn 18, they still hang out in the bedroom next to you. They still go to the same school, have their IEP, maybe graduating from school or under the IEP and certificate track, planning to stay on until they're 21 or 22. And so turning 18 doesn't mean that much, but boy, from an SSI standpoint, it means everything, because suddenly a parent's assets and income are no longer a factor. And it's absolutely true. Even though that child is still at home, still going to the same school, nothing much has changed. Because they turn age 18, they can be eligible for close to $1,000 a month, tax-free, in SSI benefits. Those benefits typically transfer to the parent to defray the cost of food and shelter. And therefore, you've got almost $1,000 tax-free coming in per month. And let me tell you, meeting their needs, the needs of siblings, maybe a sibling that's in college or pursuing some special education or something. I mean, there are all kinds of needs that can be satisfied with close to $1,000 a month tax-free. So at age 18, we coach families. I coach families almost every day of the week on how to engage with Social Security, how to apply the application process, how to work with the Social Security website, and how to get the maximum benefit, because Social Security likes to default to a 2/3 benefit. It's what they call receiving in-kind support and maintenance, as you see at the bottom of the screen there, receiving in-kind support and maintenance. And for that reason, as of next year, many of our 18-year-olds, upon applying for SSI, will be awarded $628 a month versus the $943. Well, doing a deep dive into Social Security, we've been able to determine the basis of what Social Security does, why they do it, et cetera. And so we have created workarounds for families so that we increase the odds substantially of getting $943 a month versus the 2/3, which is what 628 is. So when a child is determined to be receiving in-kind support and maintenance, that just basically means subsidized or being helped, then Social Security will cut their benefit literally by 1/3. Well, if that child is also planning employment, then the adverse effect of earned income is going to be applied against the 628, not the 943, and you can drive that benefit down. And so we really work hard with families to get their benefits increased up to the 943. And the 943 is what within a couple of years is going to be at $1,000 a month. I have to tell you, 25 years ago, these benefits were like $300 or $400 a month. I mean, never in our wildest imagination, had we looked at or forecasted that SSI would reach $1,000 a month. Just amazing. Keep in mind that $2,000 resource limit that we had mentioned before. Okay. Let's continue on with SSI, if we can. There we go. Age 18, based on the child's income assets, not the parents'. This is just a little insight as to how Social Security calculates these benefits. The first thing is they like to cut it by 1/3, like we mentioned, for receiving in-kind support and maintenance. That can usually be overcome. We can usually get families, even someone already receiving the 609 for 2023 and 628 for next year, even someone already in the trench, meaning they're receiving the 2/3 and already classified as receiving in-kind support and maintenance. The majority of the times, we can get their benefit increased. We can help Social Security see it a different way, shall we say. But there's things that do affect SSI. There's earned income of other types, and so forth. Generally, a young person gets a pass on the first $85 a month, the 20 plus the 65 you see in bullet point 2, 20 plus 65. So that totals 85 a month. So they get a pass on that. So if they're working a couple of hours a week, it really does not have to affect their SSI. After that, though, it's a $1 reduction for $2 earned. So I want to make the point that even if their benefits being reduced, there's still money ahead to work. They are still financially benefiting to work. And we'll look at, I don't know, we may have an example in a moment, but just quickly, an example might be, let's say in a calendar month, if they earned $485. So in a calendar month, they earn $485. So they're earning, around $100 a week. $100 a week. Then in that situation, Social Security would forgive the first 85, taking us down to 400, and then $1 for $2 earned. So a $200 reduction, or half of the remaining 400. So they earned 485. They only gave up 200 on their SSI. So they were $285 ahead. So again, our young people with special needs are nearly always ahead to work. So work is not the enemy. Part-time employment is really not a problem. And as you'll see in the next bullet point, if they're still a student, and this is a student at high school, they're a student at some sort of training center, like in Indianapolis, we have a training center there near Goodwill on Michigan Avenue, or Michigan Street, excuse me. Or they're at Erskine Green, or going to taking a class or two at Ivy Tech, or this type of thing. If they're still considered a student, then up till age 22, they generally get a pass on the reduction against SSI for having earned income. So that person we talked about a moment ago, earning $485 a month, they actually could keep all $485 plus as much as $943 in SSI for that month. You start putting the math together, now we're talking $1,400 a month. Talking about bringing home the bacon, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So, but unfortunately, Social Security does not talk about the student earned income exclusion. And there are lots of our students out there whose Social Security benefits are being adversely affected as a result of employment, and they shouldn't be. So, so please be aware of the student earned income exclusion. It is a pearl, it's a real gem. And it basically removes the roadblock or the disincentive to try to get the toe in the pool on part-time employment, etc. Okay, child support, 1/3 counts prior to 18. After that, it's a dollar for dollar reduction. So child support's pretty brutal on SSI. However, there is a workaround. And in most cases, this is once they turn age 18. And we've been successful in a number of cases in having child support ordered to be paid to a special needs trust. And so it is possible to establish a special needs trust, and if child support is going to be paid after age 18, to have it paid to the special needs trust, in which case we can avoid the reduction in SSI. So that's pretty exciting. That way, if they have a little part-time job, they're earning a few hundred a month, and they have their student earned income exclusion, and they have their SSI and child supports being received on top of it, it's possible for the custodial parent to have all of that to help them with expenses, etc. So some pretty exciting stuff. Again, I invite you, questions if chat's working. If it's not, then somehow we'll figure out a way to unmute everybody or do something so that everybody has an opportunity to get their questions asked. But this is a better time. It's better. The opportunities we have in the special needs community are unparalleled, better than ever before. And perfect timing to talk about living in Indiana and having a child with special needs. You might think Indiana's not as on top of things, but frankly, not all, but most of the work I do is in Indiana and the donut states. So I have an office in Louisville, but I have families in Ohio, Illinois, and Michigan. And I have to tell you, of all those states, Ohio is the only state that would, be looked at as having things put together pretty well compared to Indiana. The entry waiver in the state of Kentucky has a 12 to 14 year wait. You heard me right, not 12 to 14 months, but 12 to 14 years. And we actually have families that are moving from Kentucky across the river to Indiana in order to take advantage of the Family Supports Medicaid waiver here. So Indiana's not a bad state to be in, and it's not a bad time to be in Indiana with a child with special needs. But let's talk about these waiver programs because Medicaid waivers are more critical than ever. And I'm really excited to hear that you've got a program in January about getting involved with the waivers, because this is one train you don't want to miss. Okay, I have a question. Where is income limit under 18 published? And the answer is, I'm not sure it is. And I don't attempt to memorize it. So generally, I advise parents to call the Social Security office. The toll-free number, if you want to make a note of it, is 800-772-1213. That's 800-772-1213. And basically explain the situation and gain some insights. You also can apply for SSI online through the Social Security website. And I have that link where I'm able to send out both setting up an online presence on the Social Security website and applying for SSI. So either the toll-free number or to utilize the link, and we can get that to you, certainly. This is also an opportunity to mention that as a result of participating in the workshop this evening, I'm pleased to share with you a free follow-up consultation. That is to provide a free, absolutely free, as in it costs you nothing to take advantage. And the good news is we can do it in person at one of my offices, Indianapolis or Louisville, or we can do it by Zoom, where you don't have to go anywhere. You'll get a email thank you from Jamie Sturkey on our team. She has a son with mitochondrial. She is so passionate about the work that we do. And so look for a thank you email from Jamie Sturkey. And all you have to do is respond to the email indicating you would like to take advantage of the free follow-up consultation. And again, free, it costs you nothing. We set aside generally up to about 75 minutes for each family. And we're able to drill deep into the subject matter from this evening as it applies to you and to determine what are some appropriate next steps. Okay. And thank you so much, Amy, for putting the toll-free number for Social Security into the chat. I should mention, when it comes to Social Security, please don't call them unless you have 90 minutes to kill. You'll spend upwards to 45 minutes to get a live person, and then you may be on the phone with them for another half hour. So just pour yourself a nice hot cup of cocoa or warm tea or coffee if tired, and just have some time on hand to work the way through to get a live person. If that's not your cup of tea, no pun intended, then I would go online, and I'm more than happy to send you the free link where you literally click and it throws you right into the Social Security website SSI application. I usually do that during the individual consultation. Again, I would encourage you to take advantage of the free follow-up consultation so we can deal with all of those nuances and individual things relative to your situation. In the state of Indiana, our waivers are siloed into two major categories. So I say silo because we're, kind of an agricultural-based economy around the state. And the two silos deal with either intellectual developmental or what I call medical physiological. So in the intellectual developmental, we have the family supports waiver, which is the third bullet point, family supports. You have a maximum annual budget of about $20,000. You have a wait of approximately 24 months, unless your child is 18 to 24 and is finishing high school, or we have parents that are active duty or veterans. If your child has intellectual developmental challenges, has an IEP, and a certificate track or even diploma track, but has some intellectual developmental challenges, they very well may be eligible for the family supports waiver. And I encourage people to engage as young as possible. Frankly, it's just easier to get on the waiting list and it's easier to qualify for the waiver the younger the child, because there's less that's already been revealed. The older they get, it can get a little more challenging as testing is easier and they can be a bit more discerning about the adult situation. So there's no time like the present. And why pursue the waiver? Well, for several reasons. Number one, you get a budget for services, up to almost $20,000 worth of services per year. Number two, there are some circumstances where a parent can actually provide some of those services and be compensated under the waiver. That's a big plus, especially for parents that may find it difficult to otherwise secure an employment situation outside of the home because of the needs of the child with special needs. In addition to that, with the waiver comes disability Medicaid, which is one of the strongest forms of Medicaid in the state of Indiana with regards to overall health care. And even if they're covered under your group health insurance or your family's health insurance plan, they will eventually reach age 26. They likely age out. And, in most situations, it's questionable as to whether they'll be able to handle full-time employment and receive health insurance through their work. So having disability Medicaid is such a benefit. So lots of reasons to pursue the Medicaid waiver program, and would encourage you to participate in the January program that they're going to have. Now, so we have the family supports waiver. There is also the CIH, or Community Integration Habilitation waiver, which is the fourth bullet point down there. And it has a larger budget. It's tougher to get. So understandably, the state's going to spend more money on that waiver, and they're going to be a bit more choosy or stingy, so we say, in who they award that waiver to. Basic criteria is parents that are 80 or over, disabled, deceased, or we have a situation truly coming off the tracks where a child may be a danger to themselves or others, etc. So the CIH, again, not to create unrealistic expectations, very difficult to get, but the family supports waiver, not as tough. So those are the intellectual developmental waivers. Then you have those that are more physiologically based. There's the aged and disabled waiver, which is based on having a physical health situation. So individuals in the brain injury community, in the muscular dystrophy, spina bifida, multiple sclerosis, and a host of other conditions may find favor in the aged and disabled waiver. Also seizure situation, maybe breathing apparatus, semi or non-ambulatory. So for a variety of reasons, the medical issues are first and foremost, and the aged and disabled waiver is wonderful help. There is little to no wait for that waiver, no 24 to 27 month wait like the family supports waiver. Usually within 60 to 90 days, a person can be processed through and start receiving benefits under the aged and disabled waiver. And some families that could choose between the two waivers may start with the aged and disabled waiver, receive some benefits under it, while they wait the 24 to 27 months to get on the family supports waiver. So it's possible to be on one waiver receiving services and be on the waiting list for another. At the same time, it is not possible to be on two waivers simultaneously. But really managing, the Medicaid waiver situation is really important because with it comes Medicaid and again, also actual services. How can a parent get compensated to help caring with their child? Does the child have to be 18? Okay, so the answer there is yes, in many cases, the child needs to be age 18. I have seen some situations where a child was not, but it's more common once the child does reach the age of 18. And the conversation usually starts with your case manager. So there are 6 case management companies in the state of Indiana, names such as IPMG, Connections, Unity, Columbus Organization, CareStar, et cetera. So there are 6 case management companies. And so if a parent wants to provide services for their child with special needs, then I would begin that conversation with your case manager. You, of course, talk to them on a quarterly basis if your child is on a waiver. And they should have experience and be able to guide you. In addition to that, I would encourage you to have a conversation with any direct service provider currently providing services under your child's waiver, and especially a direct service provider where you're accessing services that you feel you may be capable to provide. So those are 2 great connections to make to start that conversation about you as a parent potentially being employed to provide waiver services for your child or dependent with special needs. Okay, now there are 2 systems in Indiana managing these waivers. One is what's called BEADS, BDDS. So if you've heard BEADS 100 times and wonder what is BEADS, it's the Bureau of Developmental Disability Services. And that office manages the family supports waiver, the CIH waiver, and they're very soon going to be managing a 3rd waiver, which is called the wellness waiver. And that waiver is actually where they are taking the aged and disabled waiver, currently managed by the area agencies on aging around the state, and they're breaking that waiver up. So the aged and disabled waiver is going to break into 2 pieces. The part that is for individuals of age as well as disability will stay with the area agency on aging. However, for younger individuals, like the ages of many of our kids, that part's going to be transferred over to the BEADS office, the office that you've worked with perhaps regarding the family supports waiver. So these are changes that are coming in 2024, and I have no doubt that this will be a part of the agenda for the January meeting. And so there should be new information by January about this change that's coming. But the 2 systems are the BEADS offices and the area agencies on aging. And I am more than happy to, in the individual consultation, we determine what waiver is appropriate for you, and we'll get you connected with the appropriate office so that you can start the application process, that type of thing. These waivers are worth their weight in gold, and it's rarely too late. So even if your child is 18 or 20 or something like that, do not think the ship has sailed. Let us help you. It's too important not. Okay, what are the income guidelines? Oh, wonderful. So someone has asked, what are the income guidelines? And the answer is, there are no income guidelines for the parents, if that's what you're speaking of. So when it comes to a waiver, even if your child is 2 or 3 years old and you're like, there's no way they'll qualify for SSI, there is no financial criteria for the parents. That's part of what makes waivers incredible. So with no financial criteria, literally the parents could have a 6-figure income, 7-figure net worth, and the child is on disability Medicaid and receiving waiver services under age 18. So again, for a waiver, there is no financial criteria assigned to the household or the parents at any age, either under 18 or after 18. Now, as far as an income or resource limit for the individual receiving services, that $2,000 does apply that we talked about before. Again, the $2,000 resource limit, that's checking, savings, CDs, government bonds, funds that they have. But there is actually an income limit that most are unaware of. And this is an overarching income limit for individuals with special needs on a waiver. So we know about the $2,000 resource limit, and there are actually two income limits to keep in mind. One income limit is the SGA, or substantial gainful activity limit, that Social Security uses as a part of their Social Security disability determination. And that limit for 2024 is going to be $1,550 a month. So $1,550 per month is the maximum earned income limit. Again, maximum earned income limit. So one really wants to be very cautious, very careful about earned income staying under for next year, the $1,550. The other income limit has to do with Medicaid eligibility, including the waiver. So, and another benefit of having the waiver is the individual receiving services is subject to a much higher income threshold. So for next year, it's going to be, let's see here, let me double check it. Okay. All right, the limit for next is 2842, I believe. Let me 2842 is the limit for next year for disability, Medicaid, and therefore waiver services. So $2,842, and that counts all income, earned income, and Social Security as well. So $1,550 for earned income, $2,842 monthly for total income, including earned income and Social Security. The $1,550 is to maintain eligibility for Social Security, disability, and or SSI, and the $2,842 per month, counting all income, is to maintain eligibility for Medicaid waivers, and for Medicaid, disability Medicaid specifically. Now, that Medicaid comes with a waiver. If one does not have a Medicaid waiver, then to maintain their eligibility for Medicaid, they're subject to a much lower income maximum. That's one of the biggest benefits of having a Medicaid waiver, is the higher income limit that one is subject to. So it's much more forgiving on income, a combination of employment and Social Security. All right, so what options do we have to preserve eligibility for these benefits? What can we do? The benefits, we're convinced they're extremely valuable. We don't want to miss out. We want our child or dependent with special needs to have these benefits. So some of the items in our arsenal include special needs trusts. And special needs trusts are designed to be a safe haven. They've been around for several decades, but they're designed to be a safe haven where assets or resources can be placed that do not count against the $2,000 resource limit. So that means we as parents can set up a special needs trust. We can gift money to it. We can leave money to it in our estate plan as a beneficiary on our life insurance, etc. And it will not undermine, if done properly, I should add, it will not undermine our child's eligibility for these extremely valuable government benefits. And there is no maximum. So the special needs trust could have 1 million, can have 2 million, or it can be funded with a relatively small amount, such as $5,000 or $10,000. So what is it for? It basically pays for anything and everything that the government can't or won't. So it usually deals with quality of life issues, because the government is focused on food, shelter, and healthcare. Food, shelter, and healthcare. And the Special Needs Trust takes care of everything else: clothing, travel, entertainment, going to Disney World, going to camp, horseback riding, going to concerts, sporting events, participating in sporting events, extra equipment that the government won't pay for, traveling to see a specialist, even supported living, where you want to consider a living option that may be private pay versus what Medicaid will pay for. So all kinds of things that Special Needs Trust pay for. And I see this every day because, as I said, I manage scores of Special Needs Trust accounts and many millions of dollars of Special Needs Trust assets, and they pay for so much, and they help individuals with special needs so much. So there are different types of special needs trusts. So it's a bit of a complicated area, and it's so very important to get the right trust and have the trust set up properly, et cetera. So that's one of the reasons that many years ago I cultivated a network, an informal network of special needs attorneys, so that we have people with the appropriate expertise that can put these trusts together, and I have confidence that it's being done correctly. But third-party special needs trusts are primarily to a place for parents and other family members to gift or leave assets to for them. The Secure Act enabled these trusts to stretch the receipt of retirement funds, like the beneficiary of an IRA, without being subject to the 10-year rule that came about with the Secure Act. First-party trust, that's for assets belonging to the individual with a disability. So this is settlements and unexpected inheritances, et cetera. And there are other trusts as well. So we have several trusts in our arsenal to help families, and it's a wonderful thing. Again, to help maintain eligibility for benefits and then augment or supplement their quality of life. So let's look at something else in our arsenal, and this is a more recent development, that is ABLE accounts. So very cool. We've had ABLE accounts here in Indiana for about 6 or 7 years. The legislation goes back about 9 years. ABLE accounts, standing for Achieving a Better Life Experience, give the opportunity for individuals to set up accounts, or for their guardian or parent to set it up for them. And funds can be placed there that, again, like the Special Needs Trust, do not apply to the $2,000 limit. So we have more options than ever before as to where funds can be placed without it representing a problem. So with ABLE accounts for Indiana, you go online, savewithable.com, and set up the account. It only takes a half hour at most. And you list the routing number and the account number for transferring funds into it. And starting next year, as you can see at the bottom, State of Indiana Tax Credit 2024. So starting January 1, here in just a few weeks, we're live with a tax credit for ABLE accounts very similar to 529 college accounts. So the way the credit works is the first $2,500, again, the first $2,500 contributed to an ABLE account in a calendar year is going to generate a 20% credit, or $500. 20% on the first $2,500, or $500 a year. State income tax credit for Indiana. Very cool. And let's see, we have a question. Can people in Virginia also get these benefits? Okay. The answer is yes. Most all states have ABLE accounts, and those states that don't have their own are utilizing another state's plans. Like North Dakota was using Minnesota's plan, this type of thing. So most all the population have access to an ABLE account. In Virginia, it's ABLE America, which is certainly a very popular plan. I should let you know, by way of disclosure, that I am a governor appointed ABLE board member, so I help oversee the ABLE program for the state of Indiana. One of the benefits, again, starting here in a few weeks, is that the Indiana plan will afford individuals filing an annual income tax return in Indiana to have the credit. So one would not get the Indiana credit with a plan from a different state. So if you do file a tax return in the state of Indiana, going forward, you're going to most likely want to utilize the Indiana ABLE account so that you're able to take advantage of the state income tax credit. Again, that's effective January 1st here in just a few weeks. Next year, great news, the limit on what can be put into an ABLE is going up from $17,000 to $18,000, so very exciting. The maximum amount, currently $100,000 for those on Supplemental Security Income. So you have to be cognizant of the limit. If on SSI, $100,000, that is total funds in an ABLE account. Only one ABLE account per person, and contributions can be made by anyone and must be made in cash. So the beneficiary a beneficiary can make contributions of their own. So if your child with special needs gets a part-time job or something, then you can help them save some of their money to an ABLE account. Absolutely. Also, family members, friends, coworkers, most anyone can add to someone's ABLE account. Another tool is the Special Needs Trust or Pool Trust. So in the state of Indiana, the IRCA of Indiana has pool trusts available, and that's also a consideration. The benefit of an ABLE account is it's so inexpensive. The annual fee is only about $45, and the funds are basically tax-free once they go into the ABLE account. They grow tax-free, and you can make withdrawals tax-free. Is there a limit on ABLE account where it may affect other benefits? Well, the ABLE actually has an advantage. Withdrawals from an ABLE account, because it's considered the individual's own money, even though it doesn't count against them, it can be used to assist with living expenses without resulting in a reduction to their SSI benefit. So the only limit for government benefits is the $100,000 for SSI on an ABLE. There is actually a higher limit, close to $400,000 for Medicaid, but we don't have anyone that's come close to $100,000 yet, so we really don't talk about the Medicaid limit much. Okay. All right, so ABLE account is a new item and more popular than ever in Indiana. I think we are closing in on 2,000 accounts in the state of Indiana, so pretty exciting stuff. Typically, contributions are made by putting a routing number and account number in and then making a transfer. There's a special provision that if a person is employed and does not have a retirement plan through their employer, they can put in extra money. So just something to consider, a way to get north of the 18,000 if one needed to. Also, I should mention that it's possible, mentioned at the bottom of the screen here, if someone has a 529 account and it appears that it may not be used for education until the end of calendar year 2025, we can transfer funds from 529 over to ABLE, tax-free and penalty-free, and then the funds are available to be used for practically any purpose the individual benefits from, as opposed to being limited to a school purpose under a 529. Okay, some more questions on ABLE. What happens the ABLE account if the child passes? A provision is made for who would be next to receive. However, thank you for bringing this up, because ABLE accounts are subject to Medicaid and liens. And so if a person has received meaningful Medicaid benefits during their lifetime, or shall we say from the time the ABLE account was set up going forward, then the state will be seeking to reimburse themselves for those Medicaid benefits. So it's probably unrealistic to think that we're going to have substantial ABLE account balances for surviving family members, et cetera. It's more likely going to go to the state. Now, with that in mind, I really see ABLE accounts as a build up, tear down, or a save and spend type of proposition. Where if one wants to save $100 a month or $200 a month or something, they can save up their vacation money, this type of thing. They can save up for new furniture, travel, or things they want to do or pay for that would otherwise drive their resources north of the $2,000. But special needs trusts are really better suited for substantial amounts of money. Again, ABLE accounts are more of a put and take or save and spend type of thing. What happens to the money? Yeah, okay. Can you use ABLE for funeral planning? And the answer is yes, you can. All right. Okay, so we talked about the limits, and yeah, okay. All right, so again, savewithable.com is the website, and the Indiana's got a great plan. There are about 5 different investment divisions, so you can be aggressive or conservative and decide how you want the funds in the ABLE account invested. All right, next up, what you should know about guardianship. And we should be wrapping up within 10 minutes. So it's just for planning purposes, we're not going to continue on for terribly much longer. Again, if you have questions, please jump into chat. It's wonderful. I'm so thankful for people raising questions. In the state of Indiana, it's guardianship or not guardianship. And if it is guardianship, it's full or partial. So if one is going to pursue guardianship, age 18 is the most common age to do so, though it doesn't have to be at 18. And in the state of Indiana, with the assistance of an attorney in most cases, or a county attorney, you petition the local court in order to schedule a guardianship hearing. And the subject of the hearing, of course, is securing guardianship for your loved one. It's done typically on or after their 18th birthday. You usually don't go to court to obtain guardianship before age 18. And that's because the criteria for guardianship under 18 is not the same as age 18. And so if parents obtain guardianship prior to the age of 18, they may find themselves going back to court to obtain adult guardianship. So at age 18 or beyond is typically the most productive time to pursue guardianship if it's appropriate in your situation. The process usually can be done within 60 days. So we usually start working with parents 6 months or so prior to the 18th birthday to work on SSI, Medicaid waiver if it needs attention, guardianship, and a variety of issues that kind of surround the turning of age 18. Now, if guardianship is not appropriate, then you can pursue alternatives such as supported decision-making here in Indiana, and also having your adult child execute a durable power of attorney and a healthcare directive. The key is that they have capacity to understand these documents, and if they do, then we can get a family connected with an attorney that can draft these documents and assist the individual in signing them. This would enable parents to step in a situation where they need to. Please understand it's not the same as guardianship with a durable power of attorney healthcare directive. It's power sharing. And if they decide they don't want to do that anymore, they can do away with it. Guardianship, because you go to court, you would need to return to court to have it undone. So it's not as casual. It's more formal and a little more difficult to undo. So each situation is different. We do help families by conversing on this topic and making referral to attorney or attorneys where appropriate. Okay, identifying a future care provider. Someone to take care of your child with special needs is so very important. And it usually starts out with grandparents, then adult siblings of the parents, and then ultimately adult siblings of your child with special needs. So the planning is so very important for your peace of mind, for the quality of life for your loved one with special needs, but also to help or assist with the adult sibling of your child or children with special needs. And so things that are really helpful include having what we call a letter of intent. This is a caregiver guide. And so this is a guide to record information that's going to be helpful to a guardian or caregiver if something happens to you. And we have a template here. It's a fillable Word document or it's on paper, and it's quite thorough. So we're really thankful to provide this to families so they can put information together and enable the family member that's going to step up if something happens to be better prepared. Our template has 38 pages. There is a place for most everything. It's such a godsend.
Gordon, there is a question about 50-50 co-guardianship.
Okay.
You want to speak to that at this point?
Yeah, great. Let's do that. Okay, so 50-50 guardianship. And this is just digging slightly deeper, so wonderful question. So we can have a situation where there are two guardians. The most popular two guardians, of course, are the biological parents, or a combination of parents, even if they're divorced, or even if they were never married. Yes, so we can have that. We can also have a combination of biological parent and step parent. Grandparents can be guardians in some situations. So there are lots of different combinations. But what is particularly helpful is if you have two guardians that serve as co-guardians, then if something happens to one of the guardians, the other becomes the full guardian automatically without having to have a hearing and go back to court. It's just a matter of providing the court with proof of death of the one guardian. If parents are guardians, if something happens to one of the parents, it's becoming more popular for the surviving parent to pull up an adult sibling of the child with special needs as a co-guardian. Again, this way, upon the death of the parent, the surviving sibling of the child with special needs automatically becomes the guardian. So I love the aspect of being co-guardian where we're already planning ahead for the next step. Briefly, how does the federal government deal with two parents? Okay, super, we got it. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for that. The letter of intent, again, a caregiver guide, it's a godsend. Enables family to get up to speed in a matter of hours or days, not weeks or months, if something happens to the parent caregiver or caregivers. Okay. Love the questions. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. And we're happy to provide the letter of intent for families so that all you have to do is click edit, start entering data, and put this thing together. There are 4 things that are absolutely wonderful godsends to family when something happens to the parent caregiver. One is the letter of intent you see here. A second is to plan in such a way that government benefits are not only maximized, but will continue if something happens to the parents. And of course, with that, we have to ensure that the child does not inherit, because at $2,000, they're going to lose benefits. And that's not what you want surviving family that's stepping up to be a caregiver, to be a guardian, to have to deal with. So keeping their benefits, number 1. Number 2, someplace to turn to pay for what the government can't or won't, like a special needs trust and or enable account. Number 3 is having a team of people, case management, direct service providers, educators, nonprofits, and so forth, having a team so that they don't feel like they're taking on the caregiving responsibility all by themselves. And last but not least is an owner's manual, a letter of intent. It's amazing. So I'm often asked how to fund a trust, just what can I put in a special needs trust? And the answer is whatever you've got. It's possible for a special needs trust to own property, even the house that they live in, investments, retirement funds, life insurance, a GoFundMe account. Friends and family can be supportive, as well as legal settlements. So there are lots of ways to fund a special needs trust. Life insurance can be uniquely helpful because, of course, it creates funds upon the death of a parent or parent caregiver, the time that it's most critical the trust be funded. So life insurance is a great option. Life insurance need not be expensive. And we have access to scores of carriers or insurance companies so that we're able to shop and find the best values for families. And the beneficiary question. And it's true, if your child or dependent with special needs is listed as a beneficiary, it's an issue. The insurance company or financial firm is not going to hesitate to cut a check to them. And at $2,000, they're in trouble. So it is far better in most situations to set up a special needs trust and then list the special needs trust as the beneficiary instead of them. This enables them to be shoulder to shoulder with their siblings to receive fair and equal treatment. So if you have 4 kids, each can receive a 4th. The child with special needs is 4th, goes to their special needs trust. So government benefits are retained, supports and helps are there going forward, and the trust is funded to pay for what the government can't or won't. Okay, the last thing that I'll mention is survivorship life. In 2-parent situations, we use this a lot. We have access to practically every carrier in the industry that provides this coverage, but it's a specialty coverage that provides a trust funding benefit when the second parent passes. So when there's no longer a parental advocate and that adult sibling, brother or sister of your child with special needs is stepping up, this guarantees that the special needs trust is well funded. It's a very exciting thing, very positive thing. Okay, that's my information.